So first of all, this is actually my very first interview ever, uh, and for the vlog, I think it's super fitting that it's about the Black Voices Scholarship, and yes, and my main objective, pretty much honestly, my main objective in music as well is to help other people tell their stories or relate with other people. Yeah, I believe that like the world is so chaotic right now, and at most people's core, they just want to feel heard and want to feel loved. And yeah, so I thought that my very first yes, my very first guest, um, be the first recipient of Icon Collective's annual Black Voices Scholarship, which aims to help Black artists manifest their creative vision through the power of music. And I just wanted to note that, like, I'm just a regular student at the school. Like, they didn't ask me to do this, nothing like that. Got to do my little disclaimer. This is just an idea that I had because I think it's an important conversation. It's an important thing to kind of dive into. And so we welcome Autumn to the vlog. Would you mind telling everybody a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. And yes, my name is Autumn, and I originally heard about Icon a few years ago. I have always been into music, and I would say in around 2018, really started getting into music production and learning about how to make my own music. And so Icon was a place that always caught my eye. I've always really enjoyed the familial aspect about Icon, the collective, and how they really value teaching their students and investing in their future. And the students love to invest in themselves. That was something that I was super interested in. So I applied for the scholarship and things worked out. Like Graham
Wonderful.
said, I this isn't anything that was the Icon asked to do or anything like that. But when Graham reached out to me, I thought it was really important to talk about, especially during this day and age when the conversations are really starting to happen more openly. I think it's important to have the conversation.
My first question, what was music a big part of your life when you were growing up?
It was. I was always listening to music. I live in LA, and so there's a very large music scene here, and so it's been all around me. My parents, growing up, always listened to music, always playing music, listening to music in the car on the way to school, and even in times where, I mean, I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to run around with all the time. One of the things that I would love to do is sit in my room and listen to music, or sit at my keyboard and just like fiddle around with it. And and so it's always sort of really stuck with me. Being in music classes as I was growing up, I played the drums in church, and so
Very
it's
cool.
always been there.
Hmm. I was in cadets and different things, and I did like the drum major thing, but I never like played or like was super interested in learning instruments or anything like that.
Right.
But for some weird reason, I was always like involved, but never learned how to actually do it. It's
Yes,
kind of bizarre.
exactly. Same
Um,
here.
yeah, right. So when did you first know? Like, was there a special moment or something like that when you wanted, or when you knew you wanted to become a music producer?
There actually was a moment. I was at, oh, what year was it? I can't remember what year it was, but I was at a hard event, and I was in the crowd, and I remember just like being in the crowd and watching the DJ up there, and I was just like, everyone around me. It was one of those sets where everyone is feeling so good. Everyone's on the same vibe, everyone's on the same wavelength. Like we're all just holding hands with random people, a very kumbaya moment. And and I was like, you know what? I want someone to feel like this about something that I made, I would love to make people feel as good as I feel right now. Like, how can we spread this feeling?
Hmm.
And I literally, like, it was like 2 a.m. or something like that when I got home, and I downloaded Ableton Lite, and
Just
I
right
was like,
away.
just straight away, I downloaded it. And then, not to say that this isn't that you can't make music with Ableton Lite, but it didn't work for me. So then I just bought Intro. and, and I was like, all right, I have like 13 tracks to work with. And I just started sort of going for it, just making little beats and here and there, and bugging my roommates in college and like, listen to this. How does this sound? And it was terrible, but it was awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was kind of the moment I knew.
Okay, so that brings me to how did you come up with your artist name, and how would you describe your style or the styles you want to kind of explore while at Icon?
I guess I wouldn't say there was an aha moment about the artist name. I've switched my artist name a couple of times. I haven't released music formally, and
Hmm.
so I was just really sort of exploring like, um, what do I want to represent in like with my artist name. So originally I was just Autumn West, and that's just my name.
Hmm.
And then I was making music under Kindred Spirits, which I thought was a nice name, and for the
Hmm.
time and the music I was making, it was. And so most recently, my artist name that I think is gonna be the one is Femme de la Femme. I think it's just really empowering. It's a little bougie, it's a little French, it's a little gay, it's a little, all the things that I sort of embody. Paris is my favorite place in the world. Um, and I just really love female empowerment.
Hmm.
And so that's really sort of, if there has to be a brand, like that's just what I want it to be. It is just being unapologetically you, being whatever that means, if it means being a woman, if it means like being part of the LGBT community, if it means just like you want to rage, if it means you want to cry, like just being unapologetically you, doing
Hmm.
it, and just not having to excuse it.
Hmm. I love it. I think it's so catchy. Uh,
Thank you.
but I mean, yeah, the catchiness is one thing, but yeah, to have it
Right.
represent something like that, and I think if we're able to create something like that, like we always have like this root, these roots to
Mhm.
return to with the name. We're not like lost in a style or a genre, or
Right.
like pigeonholing ourselves. And yeah, just in a couple, well, I guess it's been like 6 months, two quarters with Icon. Like that's kind of what I'm slowly be like starting to realize.
Yeah.
And so to hear you say that about why you chose this name, why you're going this direction with it, I think it doesn't get any better than that, to be honest.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, when I was under Kindred Spirits, I thought it was, it was a very nice name, but at the same time, I sort of felt restricted to make this
Mm-hmm.
sort of like ambient, like airy type music, like we're all
Mm-hmm.
kindred spirit souls that are like reaching out to one another. And at the time, that was really the music that I was making. I was making like ambient electronic music. And but I was like, I don't want to be tied to that. I think we're music is a living, breathing thing. We should be able to evolve, and so
Mm-hmm.
um, the name evolved with it, and
Nice.
that's where we're at.
That's cool. I love it. So how would you describe your style with Femme de la Femme?
Oh, I really, really love house music. I
Okay.
think just the groove of house, like I've never heard a house song that I really couldn't move to,
Mhm.
And so I love that groove, the house groove. Um, I wouldn't say I'm super tied down to anything, but my styles tend to be house, electro house, melodic house,
Mm,
and trying to really fuse those together with a little bit of bass influence because I like a little bit of grit,
it's
you
nice. Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
really trying to put that together right now, that's one
Yeah.
of my goals, and that's really what I'm hoping to hone in on at Icon, is how to make those gritty sounds and
Hmm.
put them in a right spot into a pretty song.
Hey, I'm totally there with you. Like I feel like elated, it's I did come from making this almost like golden era year 2000 style of trance,
Yeah,
kind of embodying like classic Armin or Ferry Corsten, but very similarly, I wanted to explore this whole, melodic techno vibe that's coming
yeah,
up, and different things like that. And I will reassure you that like going to Icon is exactly what I feel I'm exploring right now, and like kind of being nurtured in the way, especially
yeah.
with the mentor sessions. Like they meet
Mm,
you where you're at. It's not so much about the course material,
okay,
which I think is such a great bonus. Like, yeah, I remember
yeah,
my first mentor session, do the little introduction things, blah blah blah, and then he was like, "So, what are you working on? Like, what can I help you with?" And I'm like, well, I got this track, but like, I don't know if like we're supposed to. He's like, I'm here for you, like whatever it is. So I'm like, oh my god, okay,
All right,
let's
wow.
do this, right?
Let's
It's
go.
yeah, it's really really awesome. Okay, so yes, so in July 2020, Icon Collective announced the Black Voices Scholarship in an effort to amplify Black voices in the electronic music scene. What did it mean to you when you saw that Icon Collective created a scholarship to support Black artists?
I thought that it was a great step forward. So I knew that I wanted to get a sort of formal music education, just because that learning style works for me. And so I've explored tons of music schools out there. And when I saw that Icon took that step to announce like the Black Voices Scholarship, my first thought was, leave it to Icon to be ahead of the game, you know? Like I just hadn't heard of any other school doing that and paying that close attention to not only what's going on, but to recognize that the music industry, the specifically the dance music industry is a very male dominated field. It's a very white dominated field as well, you know, and to recognize the roots of where a lot of music comes from and to want to amplify the voices of people who identify with that, I think is super important. It made my respect for Icon grow even more. I thought it was just, especially because around that time there was so much negativity as well going around. Like it, there was so much turmoil that I think seeing Icon do that and say like, how can we help, and to put it like not just put words up and to like make that an action, make their words actionable, I thought was really important and very special, and even made me want to be a part of it even more.
Hmm. So how, on that note, how did it feel to be to receive that email or that phone call or whatever it was and say like you won it, you are the recipient of the first Black Voices Scholarship?
Man, so yeah, so the process of it, I so we had to submit two songs, two original tracks, and a 3 minute video about why we want the scholarship and just tell them a little bit about ourselves. And so when I went through, I did all of that, and then I got the call for the interview, and it was the craziest moment because I hadn't heard anything. I had submitted the application and I hadn't heard anything, and I was like, wow, that sucks. Probably didn't get it. And as soon as I had that thought, I kid you not, my phone started ringing and it was an unknown number. And I was like, hello? And and it was admissions, and they were like, congratulations, you're moving it forward. So we'll set up an interview, all of that. And I had my interview with Brooke. And
Nice.
I just like immediately I was so comfortable. Brooke is amazing.
Mhm,
And I didn't realize, you know, how philosophical the interview was going to be, how deep the interview was going to get.
mhm,
And I mean, I was almost in tears at certain points, like just
mhm,
really manifesting everything and talking, saying my goals out loud, which is something that I don't think we do enough.
mhm,
Is we keep all that in, like, I want to do this, I want to do that, maybe journal about it, but like saying things out loud. Yes, in 5 years, here's what I'm going to be doing. In 10 years, here's what I'm going to be doing in the next year, etc. You know?
mhm.
So I had my interview with Brooke, and then I just waited. um, and as I was waiting, I was like, okay, well, you know, regardless of what happens, we're just still working, still learning, etc. And then it was like a random afternoon, and I got an email from Brooke, and she was like, "Oh, we'd like to do a second interview. Like, can you just hop on Zoom?" And I was like, "Oh crap! Like, I don't have anything prepared. What am I going to say? What do they need?"
Yeah.
And she tricked me, and that was when she told me that I received it, and it was like
Oh my god.
like, it was the craziest moment. It was just like I was like, "Wait." I kind of just froze. I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, What?" And
Mhm,
I was happy. I was just like, I want oh, the feeling is just crazy because it felt so full circle, like, wow,
mhm.
I wanted to do this for so long. Now it's like that moment hits you that it's gonna be real. So I was over the moon about it. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. Oh my god.
And such an honor to, like, I mean, there are so many talented people, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and I even
exactly.
know some other people who also were some recipients of it, but like, and they're like listening to their music, listening. I love listening to music of people that are at Icon, that have gone to Icon, just like seeing
Mhm.
like where their journey is taking them. But yeah, that moment was amazing.
Surreal. Yeah, I keep
Surreal.
I keep my acceptance email at the top of my inbox.
Ooh,
Every
yeah,
time I log in, it pops that one open, and I get to read Brooke's little spiel. Ma
it's amazing.
It's how I get my vibes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, this it just feels so good. Like, I
Mhm,
think it's one of those moments where, you are so used to you believing in you and then hearing someone else be like, yeah, we believe in you too. Like,
mhm,
oh, so nice.
mhm. Yeah, I love that, and there's gotta be a word for it, but, like, it's like I didn't need that validation
Right.
because, like, I believe in myself even though there's insecurities that come with doing this,
Mhm.
but, like, to have somebody recognize where I wanna go and what I wanna do and support that,
Yes.
ugh, it's just it doesn't get any better than that.
Doesn't get any better than that. There's no greater feeling than to be like, and I think that's kind of what I like I want to achieve as an artist, I
Mhm,
think for like, yes, you believe in you. I believe in you
mhm,
too. Like,
exactly.
let's all
Yeah.
it's all one community.
Big time. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of the electronic music culture owes its roots to the Black and LGBT plus communities. And we don't see this type of support for many Black artists in the scene. What do you think can be done about this issue?
I think doing something like this, talking to people, I think
Mm,
is super, super important. Having
mhm,
the conversation, being open to have the conversations. The conversation is not always going to be easy, but once people can acknowledge, yes, there is not enough representation, or yes, we owe this scene to, Black people, LGBT community people. Like, it's once we are able to have that conversation and we can start challenging things,
mhm,
like, instead of saying, yeah, there just isn't, we can say, okay, well, let's make it so that there are, like, let's do something like have this scholarship amplify Black voices. Let's curate playlists. I think, I'm really excited for Icon's music history class because while I just know what I can research on my own, like having classes in programs like this dedicated to music history and making sure that the curriculum is there so everyone that's going through that is absorbing that and recognizing that so that when those conversations do come up and it comes time to put those words into actions that we can. And I
mhm,
think that that's super important. Like, yes, music, a lot of, jazz and even like house music down in Chicago, Detroit, like all of those places, like a lot of people may not know that. And once they find out, they're like, okay, well, I think it's so much fun to listen to music that was made back then at the very, very root and core and see how it's developed, you
mhm,
know? Like, that's amazing. And then you can also say, like, okay, well, what part that was so instrumental in making this what it is, and making house music or dance music what it is, what parts of those have sort of faded by now?
mhm,
Let's bring that back. Let's bring back the humanity, the groove of it all. Like, we're so used to being on the grid. Let's bring back groove. Let's bring back, all of these elements and
mhm.
put it in and make it new and make it funky again. Let's just go.
Exactly. Yes, I think a respect for the history creates a respect for like the modern
Yes.
era, right? And it's, the ignorance that perpetuates all like, all the chaos that we're seeing in
Yes.
today's age, right? So,
Yeah, I think you touched on that perfectly. Respect the history. And when you can respect the history, you'll find that later down the line, you respect the modern even more. And you're excited to push the modern even more because then, to whatever, how many generations down, they're going to be respecting your history. So, like, what mark
mhm,
are you going to make? Are
mhm,
you going to try and make the mark that, I didn't really contribute much to raising the culture and all of that? Or do you want to, like, I have a footprint in this.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Many outlets promised to do more when the Black Lives Matter movement was prominently in the public eye. Do you feel that these outlets have been doing more for the black community, or were some actions performative in nature?
tough question. Really good question. Yeah, let's get into it. I think that there's always going to be places and companies and communities that are going to try and hop on the bandwagon. And it will prove itself to be performative by, if you, for example, posted a black square and you have not done anything since, like that's performative. One thing,
Mhm.
is that to say that you're not doing stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about? No. But
Mhm.
I think that what we're seeing is, sure, there are some performative ones, but those places aren't, like, we never really expected anything anyways. So,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. So like
Yeah.
the parts of the music industry that really are pushing forward, it shows, and it's important, and that's what I'm choosing to focus on, instead of, like, yeah, there will always be performative measures being taken, and that's eventually, like, that's on them, that is for them to figure out and do on their own. And like I said, what footprint do you want to leave in history? If
Mhm.
you are fine saying, like, I'm just okay, like, this happened and I spoke up for 2 weeks and now I'm just going to stand by, like, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
if you're taking steps to push yourself forward, you're being progressive, you are, you know at least having the conversations, being open to change, and not saying, well, this is just how it's always been, yeah, we can do more, but not actually saying, okay, how can we do more, what are we going to do?
Mhm.
That's their thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that so many places and so many people are doing such good things. You have Beyonce
Mhm.
doing things like, and a lot of her stuff is behind the scenes too. But you have even so Icon doing the Black Voices Scholarship, and seeing all of the companies that jumped on board with that, Beatport and
Yeah.
DistroKid, and
Mhm.
all of the other sponsors that hopped on to the scholarship to be like, yes, we support this, we want to be part of this. I think
Mhm.
that that is really where the impact is.
Bit of a heavier question here. As a black artist in the scene, what has your experience been with racism, not just in the scene, but maybe life in general, growing up as an adult, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Sure. Yes. Like I said, difficult conversations, they should happen.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, so I grew up in uh the Valley here in LA, and by Valley I mean, like, when you hear Valley Girl, this is the Valley I'm talking about. Like, that's the one I grew up in. And so I definitely, I was the only black girl kindergarten through 8th grade, and then in high school I was one of maybe 10 or 12
Mhm.
um black kids in or black girls for sure. But going through high school in a predominantly white high school, but I didn't experience the sort of, um I would say, like, really forward racism. A lot of it was mostly microaggressions, like, you know your hair looks nice when, like, my hair is, like, pressed and straight, and or, like, in braids, and everyone wants to touch my hair, or, like, even the way that I speak,
Mm.
you speak so proper, or things like that. You talk like a white girl, or you sound like you're a white girl in a black girl's body. And those are things that you don't realize until you're older were so messed up, that you're like, wait, what? like
Mm.
I talk to my friends about this sometimes, and we're like, growing up, like, we heard this all the time, and it didn't register that,
Mhm.
what it was.
Mhm.
And so I definitely experienced that. I, like, even, like, yes, I'm black, but I'm also darker skinned, and that played a part. Like, oh, don't can't be out in the sun too long, or colorism. Those comments, like I said, they didn't come out explicitly, but they were all in microaggressions. And And now that I'm older and I can recognize that, I think that having that awareness is important, especially when navigating the industry. Like, if you look at, let's say, like the hip hop industry, for example, colorism is rampant. You see,
Mhm.
like, people want to work with artists who are light skinned, who can wear any different color wig or all of that. But then also people who are getting um, made fun of for wearing wigs and all of that. But it's just like there's so many things that people are trying to touch on. Um, and in the dance music industry, I mean, I don't know that I'm in the industry at all, but from what I've experienced, and seen, is that a lot of times when I go to, like, so say like a big festival, I can count maybe what, one, two artists on the lineup that are people of color, let alone black, and a lot of times that are women, like, and when you have, and I think it's super important to have women on your lineups, of course, to have people of color on your lineups, but when you're only seeing the same people and because what you're listening to is so much more, and
Mhm.
you're not seeing them get that kind of recognition, like, even though it's not happening to me, I can see it, and that's that can be really discouraging for someone who's trying to get into the industry, because that's a roadblock that you see that is going to be there even though you haven't gone that far. That you're going to hit it at some point.
Mhm.
So when if I break into the industry, for example, now in the back of my head I'm thinking, okay, at what point am I going to experience this? At what point am I going to hit this roadblock? Instead
Mhm.
of being like, I wonder if I'll ever hit it. If I do, we'll come to it, we'll push through it, we'll go from there. But it's
Mhm.
almost, as of now, it's almost inevitable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
One- yeah.
it's interesting when you say that because I feel like this roadblock, it doesn't exist for me,
Right.
it's not within my perception of an obstacle that I will face.
Mhm.
And even you saying that, and just what we were discussing with like performative action, it's almost like, oh, let's put a black girl on the lineup or a black woman on the lineup.
Right.
We can check off
Check off
our
our box.
our boxes, right? And especially you're only seeing a couple of them here and there throughout the
Mhm.
whole weekend or whatever, right? Like
Right.
it's not a clear example of them making the effort.
Exactly. Like, if you like, and I think that now, because it's more mainstream and that we're having these conversations, it's a lot easier to pick out, this is your token lineup. These are your check boxes,
Mhm.
rather than, yes, the talent is there, the person, the artist is there, and I think that pushing forward, we need to see more lineups, more like
Mhm.
shows, and more publicity around, like, these artists are the ones you need to watch,
Mhm.
rather than, yeah, let's Google the top 10 black artists right now and find two that we can get here, you
Mhm.
know?
Exactly. Hmm. Yeah, so something I talk about in my vlog regularly is supporting the people you're closest to.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, when the Black Lives Matter movement really came into the spotlight, really came into like, oh my, like, whoa, there's an issue
Yeah.
here for me, like recognizing this. I reached out to a few of my friends who are black, which totally sounds weird to say that like that, but I wanted to have a conversation with them. I wanted to listen to their experiences with racism,
Right.
much like the conversation we're having. So, but I wanted to hear from you. How important do you think it is that allies support and reach out to their friends while also calling out racism?
I think that is one of the most important things to do, because if you have a community that is hurting, and a community that is in pain right now, we may not have the mental capacity right now to rally and to stand up and fight. Like, right now we're just in pain, we need time to grieve, and if we can have our allies behind us being like, you know what, yeah, we're stepping up, we're going to do the work, and you can grieve right now, you can process your pain, you can process the hurt that's happening in your community. I think having allies there to be like, I hear you, I see you, I'm listening, and I will fight for you like while you're down right now. And then when you're back up, I will fight with you. I think that is something that is super, super important. Having those conversations, I had friends of mine reach out to me as well. What can I do? Wow, like, do you need anything? Just like, anything like that, something very small, even. And it meant a lot to me because I knew obviously like they loved me and all of that. And I was just like, that's super cool knowing that, you're here with me ready to fight too. And
Hmm.
we can do this together.
Hmm.
So that's, I think it's a very important thing. I'm glad that you did that with your friends, and my friends did the same, and having that support is super, super important. There are so many communities that are hurting right now for different reasons that are, and some of the same reasons. And allyship is vital.
Hmm.
Like knowing that you have someone there, that it's not up to the victim to also be the fighter, to also be the hero, to also be this, this and that,
Hmm.
and that you can have the support of others. I think that is something that is essential.
Hmm. Yeah, I've come across this phrase recently called holding space,
Hmm.
like holding space for others and allowing them to feel what they have to feel. And it's a
Yes.
place where your only job in this, whether you feel uncomfortable doing it or not, is to just be there with the person and not interject with your opinions or your whatever, right? Because I
Right.
think, you know, as it's demonstrated every day on social media, everybody is just spewing, and
Yes.
no one's listening.
Right. We're
Uh,
always downloading. We're not uploading information. We're not really processing or hearing things. We're just listening and letting it pass. And we're waiting when someone is talking, we're just waiting for our turn to talk. We're not listening to what they have to say,
mhm,
absorbing it, and then responding.
exactly. Let's have a little fun question, shall we?
Let's go.
I mean, this is all, well, fun. I don't know, but yeah, important, uncomfortable, good. It needs to happen.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate you being so vulnerable and sharing part of your story with me
Thank
and
you.
with everyone who will see this.
Definitely.
Okay, so no dream is too big. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What future do you want to start manifesting for your music career?
Let's go. 10 years. Okay, I've got 10 years. Definitely. I have an international residency in Paris.
Yes.
There's a nightclub that I love out there that I want to have an international residency. I cannot pronounce the name, so I will not butcher that right now. But there. And um, I also I want to have a label that is tied to a foundation. Like I want so that I can give back because that is, I think, one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, I want to be, no dream is too big. I just want to be traveling the world, making music, traveling the world, playing music, traveling the world. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the dream, is to be able to do this full time and meet new people everywhere I go. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of foundation you would want to start?
I think I want to start a foundation that goes to like that provides like music classes to
Mm-hmm.
children. Definitely kids growing up. Maybe partnering with like the LGBT center here in LA or in other cities,
Mm-hmm.
and having music classes, music seminars be taught, like get a bunch of artists together and like, yeah, this week we're gonna have so and so, this week we're gonna have Elated, this week we're gonna have, just like teach people music. Let's do it.
Yes, I love it. I have this thought that probably within the next decade, not only will they have schools will have band, but they'll have electronic music
Yes.
uh, built into the curriculum, and people like us will be able to basically be a teacher at a
Right.
high school or an elementary school, teaching the
Yeah.
foundation, because that's a lot of the big issues these days. Is there's not a lot of art outlets, and that's what kind of gets cut first.
exactly, that's the thing. That's what's
Yeah,
gonna get cut first. And
yeah.
if you can't have it in school, let's have it somewhere else then. Like either way, we're gonna have it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it was Berkeley College of Music that recently, or not recently, but they started a program that was specifically for electronic music
Mhm.
and electronic, like live performance of electronic music,
Yes.
which if you look up like Daltrick, she I
Mhm.
think went through that, and some other artists. And so um, it's here. It's
Mhm.
just needs to happen more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That live performance aspect, there's more and more artists going that way. I know
Yeah, that's what
Allison
I would love to do that. That'd be so cool.
oh, yeah, well, I mean, you got the guitars behind you, like,
Yeah.
imagine just bringing that
We're
out
learning,
with
we're putting
that.
in work, right?
Yeah, right? Awesome. Okay, so just to end, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to say? Any last minute thoughts or remarks?
Last minute thoughts or remarks. Well, I feel like I've really, really talked about everything in terms of like the important things we want to talk about. But
Mhm.
I think a lot of things that we need to remember, especially as producers who are generally stuck in our laptops and in our DAWs, to break away from that every once in a while, do something, even if it's something that you're not the best at. Like, I have guitars. I'm not the best guitar player, but I will still pick up a guitar and try to be more hands-on, and that can
Mhm.
create ideas. Like, just stay creative, stay finding ways to be creative. Mental health is a priority, full
Mhm.
stop.
Mhm.
Like, your mental health is the most important thing. And just to take care of yourself and be open. I think I would just say, like, I want to encourage people to be open to themselves, to other artists, to other people, to other senses and feelings. Let yourself feel everything, and then if you are a creative person, it will show. Like,
Mhm.
it will show through your art.
Mhm. I love it. Awesome. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you so, 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 so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so cool.
Yes.
And for those of you that are watching, Graham and I actually, so the first time we talked was at Icon Collective's open house. They did a speed dating style like mixer with producers and artists and people that were interested in the music business program and vocalists and all of that. And we got paired together. And I was like, hey, I was so hoping that I would get paired with you because I watched your vlog. And so now we're here.
Here we are. Yeah.
Here we are.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, really appreciate your story. And yeah, hopefully this can help people and continue the conversation going. I think that that's the most important thing we can do is keep having the conversations, whether it's uncomfortable or not.
Yep.
Start with the people closest to you, even acquaintances, reach out, people of color, black people, your friends who, who are the same race as you. Like, everybody needs to keep having these conversations to normalize them so they don't feel uncomfortable.
Right.
We can become educated, we can become compassionate about each other, and we can move forward. So that's it's the only way.
It's the only way, I think. And I think we're headed in the right direction, if I had to say so. I'm hopeful, always hopeful for the future. I'm
Mhm.
excited for what is to come.